So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, guys, based on the time zones you all are coming from. So guys, before we start with the session, can you all please give me a quick information? If you all can see my screen and hear me loud and clear as well. Perfect. Thank you for so much for the confirmation, everyone. So my name is Neeraj Kheria, and I've been working in this IT industry for more than 13 years now. So before we get started, let me quickly introduce the Edureka Masterclass community with you all. So this community of masterclasses was started back in 2019, and since then we have been closing into more than 31,000 members so far. And in these masterclasses, we conduct multiple webinars, almost 100 in a month for on different topics on blockchain, IoT, artificial intelligence, on big data, and other front-end and back-end development technologies. And the best part about these webinars are they are absolutely free of cost, so we don't have to pay anything for joining this entire webinar. And this is a really great platform for anyone who is looking to get into the industry vertical by learning the technology that they are interested in, by having a quick insight, okay, what exactly it is, if it is suitable for them or not, and then get started. So the main agenda for today's session, as we had gathered for a discussion on top of the roadmap of how exactly we can go ahead and complete our certification on top of AWS. Okay, how exactly we can get started working on our way to becoming AWS Solutions Architect certified, or we can say in terms of the certification, we have mainly three levels of certifications in terms of the solutions architect. Either we can become the cloud practitioner, or either we can become a solutions architect associate, which is the second level, or we have at third level, we have solutions architect professional. So as a part of that user who is completely newbie, so we can get started by our cloud practitioner, and that is what we are going to discuss. What exactly cloud practitioner does, and different types of cloud computing services, console, and the technology overview. Who is this certification for? Why should we get this certification, and how long we had to study for getting this certification, along with the exam details. So now, in order to become a now in terms of the roadmaps to become an AWS practitioner, the first thing is we need to have a quick understanding of the basic cloud computing concepts. What exactly it is, what are different service models available, what are different deployment models available, how they are structured. And then we should be aware of the AWS cloud infrastructure, how exactly it is divided in terms of different regions and availability zones. What are different edge locations? What are the basic concepts of the AWS in terms of the IAM services, in terms of deploying the virtual instance services, the storage services offered. And then we would be now, and that is what we have to know about the AWS itself in terms of its basic services. Not in depth, but again, the basic knowledge is acquired. We should be having good practice done on different technologies. That means, again, how the computation services are structured, how the databases, how the load balancers, how we can work with the identity and access management services, and what are the basic security services offered under AWS. And these all things are required for us to become expert in AWS technologies. So if we talk about cloud computing itself before we dive deeper, then cloud computing is the delivery of an on-demand computing services from applications to storage. So that means in simple layman terms, if we go back almost 10 to 15 years back, at that point of time, if we had a requirement of deploying a website, then we had to purchase a stack of servers, we had to set up the power, then we had to install the server on our own premise, and then we have to hire a team to take after the setup, the server setup, installation of multiple environments, maintenance, and scaling down the servers. So everything had to be done at our own end, right? So instead of doing that, again, what we have done, so here we have multiple vendors. So like we have AWS, Azure, GCP, Alibaba, DigitalOcean. There are multiple vendors in the market. So they all have done their entire infrastructure setup in almost every major city all around the globe. And they are giving us the access to use their platform by simply subscribing to the services and paying for the exact amount that we have used their services for. So what kind of service we have used and for how long we have used it, we only have to pay the amount accordingly, and then that's how we can get started in deploying our applications. So that exactly is what cloud computing has been. All right, so next we have the cloud computing market facts. So the global cloud computing market size was valued at $266 billion in 2019, and it is expected to span at a compound annual growth of 14.9% from 2020 to 2027. And again, this also saw a major jump, especially during the pandemic, where every company they had to move their solutions on cloud to ensure that people are able to work from their home in the time of crisis. Now, there are multiple type of cloud computing services. So first of all, we can say these are referred as different models. So what exactly we mean by different models here? Let's have a quick understanding. So for that, we can go to our annotation mode. Just a moment. All right, so let's say if we go back almost 15 years back. So in terms of cloud computing service models, so there are three models. We have infrastructure as a service, then we have platform as a service, and then we have software as a service. So this is what we abbreviate as SaaS, this is what we abbreviate as PaaS platform, and this is abbreviated as infrastructure as a service. So we have infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service being offered. So what exactly these are? So if you go back almost 15 years, then at that point of time, if we had requirement of purchasing a personal computer, so there were multiple vendors in the market. The first vendor gave us the entire infrastructure. That means that vendor gave us the entire PC in terms of the mouse, motherboard, keyboard, the motherboard, RAM, processor, hard disk, the networking card, the graphics card. We got the entire resource, but we didn't get any kind of OS or drivers to work with. That means here we got the entire infrastructure, and then we have to take care of setting up the environment, as in the platform, whether we want to use Windows or Linux. Again, within Windows, we have to decide what kind of variation, what kind of Windows versions we have to use. So when we are getting only the infrastructure and we have to configure the rest of the components on our own, then that is referred as infrastructure as a service. Then we have platform as a service. So when we are Suppose I say there was another vendor in the market. Now that vendor gave us the entire infrastruture in terms of PC, but that vendor also gave us the entire OS also bundled. That means the entire platform running Windows, or suppose we got Mac OS from Mac, right? So here we are not getting only the infrastructure, but we are also getting the entire applications already configured, right? So this kind of setup is known as platform as a service. So being the application owner, we don't have to worry about setting up the environment. The environment is already there, so we can start using the computer right away. Same thing for as applicable for the cloud platform as well. So when we don't have to set up the environment is something that we get already configured, then that is referred as platform as a service. And then we have the third vendor. Suppose the third vendor was available in the market. A third vendor not only gave us the entire infrastructure, but not only gave us the entire platform on OS, but also gave us multiple pre-configured applications installed. For example, here we are, apart from OS, we also got the entire MS Office installed. We got the entire multiple streaming applications also configured, security applications also configured. So when we are getting all the entire infrastructure, the platform, and the applications with the dataset configured, then that is referred as software as a service, software as a service platform. So all the major cloud computing platforms, like we have AWS, we have Azure, we have GCP, they all are examples for platform infrastructure as a service, because they give us the entire hardware. That means we don't have to worry about setting up the hardware at our own end. We can deploy the entire we can simply deploy the application. We can choose what kind of hardware we need. For example, let's say when we have a requirement of deploying any virtual instance, so there we can choose what kind of server we need, how much of a RAM we need, how many number of cores of CPU we need, how much of storage we need, what is the network bandwidth we need for those servers. So we can choose from the existing hardware. And then we have services like we have Beanstalk. So Beanstalk is basically one of the platform as a service given to us by AWS. So Beanstalk is something mostly used by the developers. So let's say being a developer, we can choose. Let's suppose we have a application ready for PHP, for Node.js that we want to test out. So instead of setting up the entire PHP environment in the servers, we can simply choose Beanstalk and we can choose the environment as PHP. So Beanstalk itself is going to deploy the instance having the pre-configured environment ready for deployment of PHP, Node.js, Java, or any .NET application. And that's why it is offered as a platform as a service. Then we have software service. So here there are multiple vendors. For example, we have Google Map, for example, all Google applications. If you want to send someone an email, we only have to subscribe to Gmail and then we can get started. If you want to stream any videos, we can subscribe to YouTube and then we can get the work done. If you want to work or if you want to get directions from one place to the other, we can subscribe to Google Maps and we can get the work done. We don't have to set up the infrastructure. We don't have to set up the platform. We don't have to install and configure any application. We only have to pay a subscription fee and then we can get started. Simply as software as a service platform. So these are three main service models that we have discussed. Now, if you talk about AWS console, now for getting started on AWS, we can sign up to a free tier account. So AWS offers us a free tier account that we can get the access to. So AWS offers us some selective services that we can use for free and that too for a given time period. We don't have all the services offered for free. So we have only selective services that we can get for free and that too for a given time period when we are signing up for a first account on AWS. So you can refer to this link here called aws.amazon.com. And here in the top right section, we can click on create an AWS account. So once you click on it, we will be required to enter the details, just like we sign up on any website, where we have to enter the account name, the email address, along with payment details as well. Just like in Netflix Prime, we have to enter a valid credit or debit card details. So same way, we do need an active payment method here. Without that, we will not be able to sign up and start using AWS. All right, so we need to add that, and a small nominal fee of 1 to 2 INR is going to be charged. And then once the payment method has been validated, we would be able to get the access. And as we discussed, AWS offers some services for free, and that too under limitation for a period of 12 months from the date of sign up that we can refer to from this link called aws.com/free. So here we can see the list of all the services which are offered under free tier account. Like we have the 750 hours of deployment in terms of the EC2 usage. We get 5 GB of storage for S3. We get 750 hours for RDS being a database service and so on. We can get the entire details. All right. And once we complete our sign up, we can log in. And once we complete sign up, 90% of the time we get the access right away. But sometimes it may need a couple of hours for the access to be given. So in that case, we can wait for a couple of hours to get the full access to the account. And once we log in, we would be able to get the screen like this one. Let me show you how exactly the console looks like. So for logging in, we can simply type in console.aws.amazon.com and we have to enter the email address along with the password that we had used while signing up, and then we would be able to get the access to the console. So once we sign up, then this is the console that we are going to look at. And here we can see the list of all the services that we can work with. And once we see this console, that means yes, now we are having the access to the console and then we can get started working on the platform. All right, so next we have Elastic Cloud Compute Service. So there are multiple services available here that we can work with. So for example, if we talk about the services like we have the Elastic Cloud Compute Service, and let me give you a small overview for each and every service here. So in terms of different technologies, there are different technologies available. For example, we have AWS currently has more than 175 plus services in different categories. We have services for computation, for databases, for storage, for migration, for IoT, machine learning, for networking, for application services, security services. So in total, there are 175 plus services offered under AWS that we can make use of. All right. So as you can see here we have different lists of types of services under management and governance, security, storage, databases. For example, in computation, the most popular service is EC2, being the part of Elastic Compute Cloud Service, through which we can deploy multiple virtual machines. We have storage services. So under storage, the most popular is S3, a simple storage service. Just like we have Google Drive, we can make use of S3 for storing any kind of document online. And plus, if you want to share this with anyone, we can easily do that. For database, the most popular is RDS, as in relational database service, through which we can deploy any database engine. Let's say we can deploy MySQL, Oracle, Postgre, Microsoft MySQL. So there are multiple services that we can define. And we also have DynamoDB, just like we have Cassandra, MongoDB, part of NoSQL database. Same way we have for here, we have services for migration, for media services, for canisters. For delivery and content delivery, we have CloudFront. We have Route 53 service that we can use for delivery of content throughout the entire global network as a part of content delivery network service. We have tools for developers for machine learning like SageMaker. We have Lex for chatbots. So there are endless number of services offered for almost everything that we have to deploy as a part of the application. And that is what we cover as a part of our discussion on the AWS certification journey. So for example, if we had discussed about computation services, the most popular is EC2. Then we have Lambda being a part of serverless computing platform. Then we have Beanstalk offered as platform as a service. Then we have load balancer for distribution of load to among we can say among multiple EC2 instances for real-time applications. And then we have auto scaling through which we can increase or decrease the number of instances when we are working with any live application, depending upon the load and multiple parameters. Then under storage service, we have S3 being a part of simple storage service, CloudFront as a part of content delivery network service to deliver the content to global users, and that too with the easiest format possible, easiest and the quickest way possible. All right. And then we have services for elastic block storage as a part of EBS, which is basically a storage service for the virtual machines. Then we have Glacier for all the archives. We have Snowball, where you can use Snowball to migrate and transfer data in and out of AWS from on-premise to AWS or from AWS to on-premise. Then under database services that we have discussed, we have RDS, being a part of relational database service, where we can use this to deploy engines running the Oracle, MySQL, MariaServer, Postgre. We have Microsoft SQL Server or Amazon's own Amazon Aurora engine. So we can use that. Aurora is basically, again, its own RDS engine. Then we had DynamoDB offered as a part of NoSQL database service. Just like we have MongoDB, we have Cassandra, and then we have Elasticache, which simply improvises the performance of the database by keeping the data cache and that too for a specific time period. And Redshift being a part of data warehousing service. For networking, we can create a completely own isolated network by using VPC. Then we have Direct Connect for establishing a direct line between our Office device and the AWS cloud. Then for management and for monitoring, we have CloudWatch, CloudFormation. CloudWatch is basically a monitoring tool. CloudFormation is a tool used for designing the blueprint of each and every application. CloudTrail is basically used as a part of audit management tool. And CLI is used to work on AWS resources by using the command line interface. And then we have OpsWork as a part of configuration management, Trusted Advisor offered as a part of the recommendation system given to us by AWS. And then under security, we have IAM service, we have KMS service, we have WAF, we have the web ACL based rules, we have Cognito. So again, these are all our different services that we are going to discuss. Now, next in terms of the pricing, so AWS pricing is based on pay as you go model. So there is no upfront cost involved here, and we have to pay for exactly for the amount of time we have consumed the resources. For example, if we deploy a virtual machine for 10 hours and we had to pay exactly for 10 hours, nothing less, nothing more. If we are storing 1 GB of data on the cloud, on S3 cloud, then we had to pay exactly for 1 GB, nothing less, nothing more. And we have to pay less by using more. So if we have a requirement, then we can obviously increase the limit. So again, these are going to be based on the volume base. For example, if we are going to use the instance for, let's say, for 1 year, for 3 years, then instead of paying on an on-go basis, then we can simply pay the amount upfront to AWS, where we can get a good amount of discounts as well, which can be as high as up to 70% as well. Depending upon the volume, depending upon how long we want to use it, we can either go for upfront or we can go for pay as you go model, depending upon how much we want to pay, depending upon the budget. All right. And as you can see here, if we store up to 50 dB, then the cost is going to be 0.23. If we store between 51 and 100, it is going to be 0.22. If we store like for more than 500 terabytes, and it is going to be 0.21 per month. So we have to pay based on the volume as well. All right, so there are multiple scenarios. For example, in services like we have AWS EC2 and RDS, we have an option of reserving the instance as we discussed. So we will charge significantly less, where we can save up to 75% of cost. So instead of going for an per hour basis, let's say if we have a small requirement, then we can go for per hour basis. But again, if the client has committed to use the instance, let's suppose for 1 year for 3 years, then we can offer them a good deal where they can save up to 75% of cost on the cost itself. And again, this certification is basically for sales and management professionals to help inform business leaders of AWS. If we don't understand what we are selling, then we will not be able to sell that item ever. That's a fact, right? So if we are into selling these solutions, then we have to understand what exactly we are selling, how exactly it works, so that we can prepare a better draft, we can prepare a better proposal for the client so that they can have an understanding of how this is going to help them. And then professionals wanting to get a foundational knowledge of AWS, they can go for the cloud practitioner exams. And people who need to learn business centric concepts and billing in AWS, then they can go for this one as well. Now, why should we get this certification? It's one of the easiest AWS certification to get, and it adds to our certifications. It gets us familiar with our test center and the environment, and we could proceed to prepare for solutions architect, associate, or even associate exam, which is basically the next level. So it sets the foundation really good. And how long we had to study? So if we, for developers, we had to study at least for 8 hours, for bootcamp graduate for 15 hours, whereas for sales and management professionals, they had to invest more time because they need to have their basics clarified. So they need to invest at least 20 hours in terms of learning time required. And then if we talk about the exam details, the cost of exam is going to be $100 plus taxation. The duration would be for 90 minutes and the number of questions will be 65. And the passing score is 70%. The total marks, there are 1,000 and out of that we had to secure 720. And the validity for each and every certification, whether we talk about cloud practitioner or professional associate or anything or any exam, their validity is going to be for 3 years straight. So after 3 years, we can decide to renew the same certification or we can go for any higher level of certification as well. Thank you so much for joining and have a great day ahead. Take care. Bye-bye.